Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a fantastic show for you on this Friday. First, let's talk about the Black Church Apology Tour. I'm going to be talking to two black pastors about how they're planning to take Christianity and outreach to the next level. We're going to have that conversation. Also, how a Maryland teen accused of planning a school shooting has been arrested, preventing a disaster and a catastrophe, according to police authorities. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And progressive Democrats are moving forward as they have released an agenda for 2025. It is bold, it has innovation, and a whole lot more. The question is, can the Dems make it happen? Folks, we're going to have that conversation as well. Stay with us. And, of course, got a big special announcement for you. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Man, oh man, I am very, very excited. Today is Friday, April the 19th, and we got a lot to talk about. There we go. We got a lot to talk about, crew, a lot to talk about. All right, first and foremost, let me tell you where we are streaming at. First, go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you do your due diligence. Go to our website today, download the app for free, follow us on social media, and of course, we ask that you put something in the bucket for us to continue to support us in this great movement. So just go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, we are streaming live on Amazon platforms, on Amazon News and your Fire TV. You can check us out there on Amazon Prime Video. You can check us out on the Prime Video app under Live TV, The News, or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV, The News. We're also on the Freevee network, where you can find us there on now under News for Freevee, as well as Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network or find us under Live TV, The News and Opinion. And we're also streaming on Big Brother Roland Martin's social media pages. So you can find us on his Facebook page where we're streaming live at, also on his YouTube channel. And big shout out to the online culture crew. Y'all know who y'all are. Big shout out to you, crew, for being there on the X platform, on Facebook, on YouTube. Oh man, I am so grateful for each and every one of you that are tuning in. And hopefully we get to hear from what you have to say today. So make sure y'all stick around for the discussion. All right, it is Friday and I'm joined by my sister who is a parent and educational advocate. She is the founder of the Doris L. Morrow Online Academy. She's been doing the work of educating our children for many years, and she serves as a contributor here on The Culture. I'm always happy to have my sister join me on Fridays, my sister Kimberly Morrow. Kimberly, how are you today?
I am good.
You're looking fantastic. I love what you're doing with the hair. That's awesome right there.
Thank
I like
you.
it. I like it. So Kimberly, you always in different places and different spaces. And today you said, Faraji, you told me last week, Faraji, we need to have a conversation about something very important. And that's the Black church. And I said, all right, you know what it is. You know what my answer was. Let's have it. Let's go. But you got two special guests that's going to be joining us to talk about a very important effort called the Apology Tour. Man, oh man, when you said Black church and apology, y'all know I have to have some time for this. Kimberly, what talk to us a little bit about this, and then let's bring on your special guest.
Yes, so I was talking with Pastor Sims, and he was sharing with me that they were going on this apology tour to basically, from the way I understood it, to apologize to the community for not stepping up as they should have been and how the Black church should be doing more. And I was taken aback, and I was like, wow, this is something that is necessary. I was so impressed. And when I immediately talked to you about it, I was like, hey, this is what they're doing. This is exciting. This is interesting. So I was so glad that he agreed with the other pastor to come on. So this is exciting. This is very exciting. It is something that the community needs right now. It's definitely something that we need.
I cannot tell you how excited I am. I got to take my first pause. When we come forward, Kimberly, we going in with the pastors today for the Black Church Apology Tour. Folks, have you ever heard of any effort like this? If not, I want you to stick around. More importantly, I want you to be a part of the conversation, join us. And crew, ask all the questions, jump in. No question is a dumb question. Let's have a discussion. But when we come forward, I want to check in with Pastor David Sims and Pastor Shep Crawford to talk to us about the Black Church Apology Tour. Stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. And folks, we got a fantastic discussion lined up for you today, brought to you by my sister, Kimberly Morrow, who brought this idea to my attention. And once she told me what the crux of this idea was, I was like, it's no problem. Let me give them as much time as they need in the first part of the show to make sure that we have a discussion. So I want to welcome first, Kimberly, this is something that we're seeing here in the city of Los Angeles that's kicking off, but then it is going to be spreading to other parts of the country, correct?
That's one of the questions we're going to ask them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the questions.
Absolutely. Let me bring in our special guest. We are joined now by Pastor Ryan David Sims, who serves as the senior pastor for Revelation Church of God in Christ, as well as Pastor Shep Crawford, who serves as the founder of the Experience Christian Ministries. And I'm very, very happy to have my brothers joining me today. Pastor Sims, Pastor Crawford, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. How are you today, brothers?
Hey, it's a pleasure, my brother.
Doing great.
Well.
Glad to be here.
Good. Let's start with you, Pastor Sims. What is this apology tour all about?
Absolutely. And I have to certainly thank you, first of all, for having us on here. This is an honor and a privilege to be here with you all. I'm actually have to give a lot of accolades to my brother, Pastor Shep. We actually were on a tour in Alabama. And while we're on that tour, we went to Birmingham. We went to several of the cities in Alabama that experienced a lot of racial tension during the civil rights movement. We walked on the Pettus Bridge. We went to the place where 1,000 kids were attacked at a park by dogs and hoses. We went to the church where the 4 girls were bombed. And while we were sitting on the bus driving throughout Alabama, we sat next to each other, and Pastor Shep said to me, we have to do something. We owe an apology to the community because we hadn't stepped up in a large way in the way we were learning our forefathers did during these moments, our ancestors did during these moments. And so we come back to Los Angeles, and that was the goal. The goal was to galvanize churches together to be more engaged in their community. And we started that with an apology to the community, giving them a olive branch, saying, although there's a lot of churches engaged in the community, we apologize for the moments that you felt neglected in the spaces where you felt we should have shown up. And that's what kind of launched the apology tour.
Wow. That's a humbling place to be in, Pastor Crawford. That's a humbling place to be in. And I want to kind of get your take. First, let's talk about the website because I want to let folks know about this effort. It's apologytour.com is the website, crew. Apologytour.com. Take a look at that. Renew our commitments, and we're going to rebuild. And it is the new face of urban Christian outreach. And this is a fantastic effort to bring people together, and more importantly, to start the conversation, I would say, renew the relationship, right, Pastor Crawford?
Yeah.
Starting in a place of humility, not saying this is what y'all need, and this is what we're gonna do, but you're starting from a very humble beginning and say, you know what? I apologize. Talk to me, dear brother. What is the spirit behind this effort?
Yes. So, there was a time where the church was the place. The pastor knew everyone in the community, and everyone in the community knew the pastor. But at some point, due to gentrification and a lot of other things, a lot of us have moved out of the neighborhood that our churches sit in. And with that being said, our churches have become a locational. So everyone drives in to have church and shout, and then we drive out, and we know no one in the community. So churches have been, doing food giveaways and all type of things, but the relationship was lost. What we wanted to encourage is getting to know the community that your church sit in. And so we decided that we were all going to, on the same day, at the same time, walk out of our churches into the community in an apologetic way to ask them for forgiveness for not being there in the way they needed us to be. And we didn't go doing that trying to give them our program and telling them the things that we can do. We asked the community, what is it that you need from us? How can we partner with you to make this a better community and to actually help your family as well too? And 32 churches participated in that walkout. In the middle of service at 12 noon, walked out of the church, the whole congregation, to walk into the community that surrounds them.
And Pastor Crawford, what was the effect of that? What was the results of that demonstration?
People were in tears. The community was in tears. The community, when they see the church coming, of course, they're thinking we're about to invite them somewhere or ask them to do something, but they were in tears to hear this because, this was right, coming out of the pandemic where most people felt like God didn't show up for them. Jesus didn't show up for them. What they were really trying to say is the church didn't show up. We are the body of the church. So how can God move if we're not moving? So we had to go and apologize that we were so caught up in making sure we kept our church sustained, that we didn't pay attention to the community the way that they needed us to do so. And people were very excited and glad to hear that. And now we're involved in conversations with the community as it relates to partnership and making sure that we can heal the community.
One of our great crew members, You Don't Like My Music, he posted in the chat that there is 2 different schools of thought, Pastor Sims, that are currently, I guess, it serves as a foundation of churches today. You have the liberation theology and you have the prosperity gospel. And he made the point. He said we need more of the latter and less of the more of the liberation and less of the prosperity teaching. And I want to kind of get your take on that. Do we need to kind of delineate between church activities, like who's on which side, or do we need to have a situation where it's a little bit of both? Because you do want to go to church to hear about the struggle, and of course that element of the word. But then there is also the aspirational aspect of the teachings of the word of Jesus and the gospel. So what's your take on that?
So there was this letter in 3 John that was written to a gentleman by the name of Gaius, and John writes to him, and he starts off by saying, I wish above all things that you would be in good health and prosper, even as your soul prospers. What that means in that context is he's saying, if you're good, I'm good. Is really what that meant back during those Bible days. And I think we've kind of moved away from that approach of saying, hey, if you're good, I'm good. And prosperity should be a shared experience. to where it's not this individual idea of me and my family going to get blessed and move on with our lives and testify about how blessed we are. Prosperity should be, if my brother's good, I'm good. If my sister's good, I'm good. And so I think there needs to be a balance of both. How can we bring people out of the challenges they're in, bring them to a place of health and wholeness, but at the same time, making sure they're good? So my feeling of personal prosperity is really deep in my brother's prosperity. If my brother is doing well, then I'm doing well. So I think prosperity is important, but we need to shift its perspective. So it's not about me getting a big house, and I thank God for my big house. My prosperity is, hey, if Pastor Shep's good, I'm good. If I'm good, Pastor Shep is good, and we're going to both go up together. And that's what we want to bring to the community. If the community is good, the church is good. If the church is good, the community should be good.
We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, Kimberly, Pastor Crawford, Pastor Sims, I want to continue the conversation. Of course, crew, I want you to post your comments in the chat. But let's talk a little bit more about what is the role of the Black church in 2024, especially given all of the political polarization we're seeing and so much more. So join us in the conversation. And folks, you know it's going to get hotter and hotter. We got 2 Black pastors on the panel today. Please, y'all know we're about to get busy. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Game on. State of the Union 2024. Huge night for President Joe Biden.
This was a CVS receipts type of night.
He dragged the hell out of the Supreme Court. And he said, y'all gonna see the power of women.
Trump's brain is melting as we speak.
We want to organize from a place of strength.
There's no confusion whatsoever about what they've done and what they plan to do.
What Donald Trump is doing is presenting a fallacy.
He is convincing them that he's all in it for them, when in fact he's all in it for himself.
We do not feel Joe Biden, in spite of the success that have taken place during this administration economically. There are too many things where we do not feel like he's had our back.
You should also be investing in the barbershops and the beauty salons and the hookah bars and the folks who are going to the club, and there's a way to actually get them registered because we've done it before. But if you don't have folks who understand that dynamic, then you're missing a big opportunity.
So we said we just celebrated. For what? Why don't you go to celebrate rather than recommit yourself to the fight if the very thing we went to celebrate has been gutted?
Republicans did not support a lot of the bills that were necessary to keep the country fluid. You can't only love your country when you win, right?
Oh, no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut?
This was absolutely the knockdown, drag out that we were really waiting.
Black voters are the base. They're the most important base of the Democratic Party. There was very few language in this speech. At the time, we see an attack on Black history, an attack on DEI. The end of the BLM racial reckoning thing has come to a complete end because there was nothing in this speech for that.
Our movement has never been grounded in two-party politics in this country. All of our movements ultimately get co-opted by a state that is anti-Black.
They called the old because they knew the way, and they called the young because they were strong. And I believe there is a good combination of that, but we can have ideas and we can have visions and dreams, but we have to have our young people also working beside us because they are strong, and they will run that race, and they will run it to the end.
Activists, organizers, and young people have been pushing this administration to be on the right side of history and to do something about the issues that they care about.
While the Ukraine and Palestine are critical issues, they are not the only global issues.
Not a single Black person who should ever let it come out their mouth that I'm tired. Because there is somebody else who came before us who didn't stop fighting.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. We're having a fantastic discussion as we talk about the Black Church Apology Tour. And this was an idea that was brought to one of our great contributors, Kimberly Morrow, who is joining us today as we have this conversation with two dynamic pastors. We're joined by Pastor Ryan Sims, Senior Pastor of Revelation Church of God in Christ, and Pastor Shep Crawford of the Experience Christian Ministries, who's joining us as well. And as we're talking about how does the Black church renew its relationship with the people, and they're hosting an apology tour, an opportunity where churches break through the four walls, go out into the streets and be like Jesus and go to the people and now expect the people to come to them. And it is an effort that many people, I think, Pastor Crawford, Pastor Sims, and Kimberly, I think a lot of us have often talked about this, right? We are in a very, very different age, especially when it comes to faith. And I know Pastor Sims and Pastor Crawford, I want to get your take on this first. I know that you know, like I know, that people are more spiritual now and less institutionally religious. And so I want to kind of get your take on that in terms of what did you hear from the people when those 32 churches went out into the streets? And more importantly, what have you been hearing about how the church can play a role back in people's lives? The institution of the church can play a role in people's lives.
Well, you know, right when the pandemic happened and we all were at home, when the churches started opening up, there was a generation that was not there present, and that was the younger generation, our young adults. And our young adults, I met with our young adults because before the pandemic, 80% of our audience were young adults, but they did not return immediately. And I met with them and asked them, you know, why? And it was like in their minds, their eyes were open, and they weren't necessarily just talking about my church, but church in general. They felt like it was not a place in general that they could come and feel good about themselves. And they felt like I don't necessarily need to be at church to have a relationship with God. And the truth of the matter is that you don't need to be at church to have a relationship with God. However, the church is your gas station, and that's what we're trying to bring it back to. We're not trying to concentrate on Sunday. The reason why Sunday exists is so Monday through Saturday, you can be fueled. So Sunday, we're supposed to give you that gas, come together and encourage one another.
Like
the Bible, don't forsake assembling to get together. And the reason why that is because we're supposed to build. And so I think now that a lot of churches are making a conscious effort to make sure that we are building the individual and not building the building. If you build the individual, the individuals will go out and spread God's kingdom. And that is how the approach of the apology tour has been effective. People want to know, are you going to help me in my economics? Are you going to help me with job careers? Are you going to help me with healing? Are you going to help me with those different aspects? And yes, we are. We don't want to just preach Jesus. We want to live Jesus.
Man, that is powerful because Pastor Sims, and then Kimberly, I want to get your take on this. Pastor Sims, that puts the responsibility back on the person, right? That here we have always been conditioned to look outside of ourselves for our own salvation. But based on what I'm hearing from Pastor Crawford, and I'm sure you share the same sentiment, is that this journey is a personal journey. That on the outside, it's one thing, but you're talking about taking that journey on the inside, that internal walk, to get to a place of peace and salvation. Explain that to me a little bit more, big brother.
Yeah, so I think, how do we get them there, right? So I think leaving the church doors open, I agree with everything Pastor Crawford said, leaving the church doors open and having our services, but how do we get them to that point? And I think, you know, we've kind of transitioned ourselves. Instead of just being senior pastors at our church, we've become community pastors. That's what we call ourselves, the pastor of the community, or a pastor in the community. And by doing that, people rely on us to show them that same love that Jesus had. I'll share really quick about a family we worked with. Their kids were experiencing racial discrimination at one school. We helped them transfer to a new school. They were experiencing some negativity from some teachers at that school. We helped them through that challenge. They were dealing with some neighborhood challenges. We helped them with that. One of their kids was ready to go to college. We helped them with that. So we showed the love of God. I never invited this family to church. I just showed up for them. They came to me and said, we have to come to your church. You've helped us too much. After coming to church, they then said, we have to become members of the church. I just got a call yesterday with one of her daughters that she's been praying for. And she said to me, my daughter is coming to church and she's joining the church. So I think there's this combination of making the space available, but doing the work that encourages people not to come out of guilt, but to come because they've been drawn to the house of God, where they've gotten so much love and support from the church in their community. So I think it's again, goes back to that B word. It's a balance. It's a balance of how are we engaging the people. Yeah, how we're engaging the people into our space, and then what are we doing once they get there? So I think the days of guilting people into church are over. They are gone. Especially when we're providing online content. You know, we're paying all this money for online content, then we get mad when people don't show up. So that is gone. But if we can engage people at the level where they need us the most, they'll come because they see it as a solution, not because they're guilty.
That is wonderful right there. Althea Sims, one of our watchers today, she said, yes, that is what religion is. However, the church is the body of Christ, a congregation of believers who seek and have a personal, intimate relationship with Christ. Amen. Amen. Kimberly, what's your take on this?
I got to shout her out because that's my mama.
That's your mama?
Yes, my mom.
Man, we don't do shout out to moms on here, brother.
Yeah.
That's a blessing. Yeah. Sister Althea, Mother Althea, thank you so much for checking in. I figured, I was like, she was dropping some jewels in the chat, so I was like, let me just raise her.
Yeah.
So the fruit don't fall too far from the tree.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I hear that. Mama Althea Sims, thank you for checking in. Kim, what's your take? We're going to take another pause in a moment. But
yes, so I'm going to let them marinate on this so we can take our pause. But I want to get back to the beginning where you all came up with this idea while you were in Alabama and reflecting on what role the Black church, particularly Martin Luther King Jr., played during the civil rights movement, and how we as the church can lead us back on that path, because we're in a position right now where all of the gains that they got during that time period have been snatched back from us. And so there really needs to be a second civil rights movement. So I want you all to think about how the church, just as they did in the 60s, how the church can step up and lead that again.
Hey, Kim, you've only been on the show for a short period of time, and you already know what I'm thinking.
Well, you know what? Because I taught history, so this is
right. No, you're absolutely correct.
Teacher perspective, because I taught this to students. I showed them how the church, particularly Martin Luther King Jr., led the way. And so we're just not seeing that right now the way we saw it back in the 60s. And there are a lot of people online doing church, and it's as though I like your other, the person who said it's, a lot of them aren't talking about liberation, they're talking about prosperity. And to me, they should be talking about both, because you can't have prosperity without liberation. But that's
a great point, and I want us to talk about that in the last segment and get their take on it, Pastor Crawford, Pastor Sims, because I do agree with Kimberly on that the church was leader of the social justice movements. The church was the leader of the humanitarian movements that we've seen in our community. And it doesn't seem that is the case anymore. But maybe we're wrong.
We got the
Pastor
answer.
Crawford, we could be wrong, but we're going to take a quick pause. We're going to take a quick pause, and then we're going to get your take on that. Stay with us. The conversation continues about the Black Church Apology Tour on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
I need you to scream for your new beginning. 5, 4, 3, 2. I need you to shout for it. I need you to shout for it. It won't always be like this. Sooner or later, it's gonna work in your brother's favor, in your sister's favor. They shall not die. They shall not die. They shall not die. I want you to embrace somebody and tell them welcome to the greatest season of your life. Hug somebody, welcome.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad, joined by my sister Kimberly Morrow, one of our great contributors here on the show. But we're also joined by two special guests, Pastor Shep Crawford from the Christian Ministries Experience, the Experience Christian Ministries, and he's joining us, as well as Pastor Ryan David Sims, Senior Pastor of Revelation Church of God in Christ. These two brothers are joining us as they talk about the Black Church Apology Tour, where they're looking to redefine the relationship between the church and the people. This is a faith-based effort. And again, folks, you can go to their website at theapologytour.com. Again, it's apologytour.com, a phenomenal website, a lot of great information talking about this effort. But it's all about outreach, meeting the people where they are. Now, I want to kind of go back to that point that Kimberly made, Pastor Crawford and Pastor Sims, where we talked about what is the church's role, how the church going to lead the effort as it relates to social justice, as it talks about political empowerment. Hell, we can even throw in there economic empowerment, right? Because the scriptures speak about all of these things regardless. And how did we get the Black church to be that? Because we know that happened during the civil rights movement and other movements during our time. But over the past, I would say 30 to 40 years, Pastor Crawford, there's been a shift where the church has kind of, I'm not going to say that it's fallen back, because that may not be the correct terminology, but has not been as active in those spaces. Again, how did we change that dynamic, big brother?
Yes. First of all, we realize that anytime God creates a cultural leader, he gives them two jobs. When he sent Moses to free the people, he told Moses to go to Pharaoh. That means to speak to power, let him know, release my people, and then go to the people and prepare them for success. So two jobs that any leader of a culture has is to speak to power and to strengthen power in the people. And so Moses did that. Jesus did that. Martin Luther King did that. Every significant movement have been those two jobs. Myself and Pastor Ryan were speaking on the bus when we were in Alabama, and we were thinking that one of the things that we want to do is we want to return the church back to the civil rights movement, where the church was speaking and acting on behalf of Black people, but we didn't necessarily want one person to lead it, because when they killed MLK, it started to go bad. And one of the things we want to do is we want to not only make it a movement, we want to make it the norm. That this is what the church is about. That this is not something that the church does on the side or the church does when it is needed politically, but this is what church is about. And our aim is that we hope in the next 5 years, we would have changed church culture to this. When you want to pastor, you're looking at the community, not how well you preach, even though good preaching is good. But we're hoping that we are changing the culture, that even if it happens after we're long gone, we can point back to this time and say it started with the apology to the community.
Let me ask this question as we're talking about changing that culture. We had talked about the fact that Pastor Haynes out of Texas, he was appointed to serve in the role of the leader of the Rainbow Push Coalition that was founded by the great Jesse Jackson. And he decided to step down after 3 months, right? But it's not that he never dealt with longevity, because he was a church leader for over 40 years in his own right. But I'm wondering, in that conversation, there was a lot of discussion, Pastor Sims, about passing the torch. And what does that look like? And as I'm hearing Pastor Crawford talk about changing the culture, it starts with embracing young people. It starts with, embracing innovative ideas such as this one, to go out beyond the four walls and doing some things. So talk to us about, what does that look like? What is the plan of action that Black churches can start to embrace as it relates to its relationship to the next generation? And more importantly, understanding that culture is a major influencer in how people think, believe, and have and how they perceive faith.
Man, there's so many answers I can give to that. So I'm going to try and narrow it as best as I can here. I think, for one, let's talk about our approach. Our approach is to train churches on two levels. One, let's get you committed to doing what you do well, and then you be the hub for that skill set for our community. So to give you an example, Pastor Shep Crawford and his church deal with gang intervention extremely well. They're experts in it. Our church, we deal with school intervention and law enforcement very well. We're experts in it. And so instead of me trying to develop a gang program or him trying to develop a school program, we utilize each other. So I lean on him when it comes to gang intervention. He leans on me when it comes to school-based intervention. The reason I'm bringing that up is because that's kind of our training approach, is going to churches throughout our city and saying, what do you do well? And how can you make sure you're developing other churches and being a part of our dispatch system so that we all have the same resources, but we're individually focused on those efforts. So the goal is develop your church in that space, own that space, and then begin to tap into the community in whatever area you're great at. I think the legacy happens there because not only are we saying we want to shift ownership into these other churches, we're saying, church, take on ownership into your community and start to develop those relationships. Mm-hmm. Also, our churches a lot of times are reactive. Something happens, how do we show up to provide a solution? We want to work with a proactive model. How are we getting to the elementary schools? How are we getting to the middle schools? How are we working with law enforcement before somebody gets arrested? How are we working with the politicians before economic challenges show up? So how can we get ahead of a lot of these conversations that are happening before those issues start to attack our community? And let me tell you, it's been working. I had a situation, we'll leave names out of it, but I had a situation where law enforcement called me and they said, Pastor Sims, there's a situation going on. We don't want to arrest anyone. Can you show up? No problem. I called Pastor Shep. He and I made some calls. They called me back a few weeks later saying, whatever you guys did, thank you. The problem has been gone. So I think it's putting our legacy into the community so the community sees the church is here. That challenges the next pastor, the next preacher, that getting up on Sunday morning and hollering, which is amazing, is not your core responsibility. There's a community that's waiting on your instructions to move forward. So I think it's just really digging our pastors and our churches deep into their community where the community starts to see them as the solution.
And you know what, Pastor Sims and Pastor Crawford, one of the things that I'm hearing when I listen to you, Pastor Sims, it will take a very different type of servant leader to be in that position, because you will have influence when you do operate just as you described, Pastor Sims. If you have a church leader that does make inroads and can build relationships and influence policy, you got to make sure that that church leader stays humble, because that's when stuff starts to get muddy. You know, when money is talked about on certain or land acquisition, or when all of the things of building the church starts to kind of it goes from service to the people to now, look, I'm trying to enrich myself. And that's where I think a lot of people start to fade away, when they start to see that spirit and that energy that interferes with the progress. So I totally agree with you. We got to take one quick pause, a final pause this hour. But when we come forward, I want to get some final remarks from Pastor Sims, Pastor Crawford, my sister Kimberly, and folks from you, crew. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad, joined by my contributor, Kimberly Morrow, parent and educational advocate, and she is the founder of the Doris L. Morrow Online Academy. We are also joined by two very special guests, Pastor Ryan David Sims, who serves as the great pastor of the senior pastor for Revelation Church of God in Christ, and Pastor Shep Crawford of the Experienced Christian Ministries. They're joining us as well as we talk about the Black Church Apology Tour. I want to kind of get back into, getting some final remarks from everyone about this, but I want to share what some of the crew members in the chat are saying, because people are saying all types of stuff. They're talking about everything from scripture, but it's more of, this is a conversation about understanding the church's role in 2024. We can't change anything in the past. The only thing we have the power to deal with and the time to deal with is what we're doing right now, with the hope that it will change the culture and the direction of things in the future. But Taylor posted, going to have some folks out there hugging on little demons. Nope. I'm just saying. What do you say to those who might think that, you know what, this is not the move, that we can't put ourselves in harm's way being out in the streets? Pastor Crawford, talk to me, brother.
Well, here's the thing about it. We, the church, claim to have the power of God. And if we have the power of God, this power is shown in places that might be a little scary. David said, listen, I'm walking through a scary place, but I'm not going to let that, me feeling scary, not let me walk through this place. God is with me. His rod and his staff, his protection, his provision, comfort me. One of the things I did is in gang culture is when I moved into the neighborhood I'm in, I'm right in the smack dead middle of 5 Trey Avalon Gangster Crip. I went to the park and I announced myself as a pastor and told them that, hey, I was right down the street. They said to me, we work out here every morning. That means to me, we're not coming to your church. if you want to talk to us, here's where we are. And I came there and worked every morning. I mean, worked out with them every morning. And eventually they came to church, and now we're in good standing with each other. And so I believe that we should be cautious, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm willing to die for this. I'm willing to die to do the work of God. So if we're really serious about leading the culture, let's be cautious. Let's make sure that we use wisdom, but we got to come out of our comfort zone, and we can't be scared to hit the streets.
Absolutely.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, sir, Pastor Sim. Talk to me, brother.
So in Alabama, this is what we went over. This is what we learned. 1,000 kids between the ages 2 to 17 left their schools in the middle of the day in the name of integration. The parents were against it. The teachers were against it. The kids are the ones that showed up. So when we see the hoses and the dogs turned on citizens, those were children. 2 to 17, they all got arrested. You see them singing and joyful. We had the pleasure to speak to 2 of those kids just a couple of years ago. And I asked one of them, I said, you guys seem to have such a peace and joy while you're going through this, yet you were children. What was it? They said, we knew where our power came from. Our power came straight from God. The other gentleman said to me, he said, you know, you all are telling us that was a historic moment. We didn't realize it was a historic moment. He said, you're in a historic moment right now, and I hope you realize it. So I think that we somehow turn church into a place where we protect Christians against everybody else, rather than realizing our target market are the ones that don't believe, are the ones that need him, are the ones that are out there struggling. And if we can't, with the power of God, be like those kids and say we're willing to face the enemy who has less power than God in the name of righteousness, then I think we're lost. I think we're lost if we can't have that type of faith and power in our God to go change a world that he came to die for.
Let me just throw this other comment out from one of our other crew members, Lana. She said, MLK supported reparations. After he died, we've been hoping Jesus will save us since. I'm over hope. I need economic equality, not another preacher, religion, spiritual advisor. I need another MLK. Brothers, what do you say to that?
Well, he just said he don't need another preacher, advisor, spiritual leader. He needs another MLK.
She said that.
MLK was all of the things that he just said he didn't need. So I think a better way of saying that is that today's preacher need to return back to being concerned about the community and doing so. We're fighting for reparation right now. We're literally in that fight. We're fighting for the Black culture. You know, my Easter service was called the Black Resurrection, and it was all about the Black culture. So we are fighting for that. We're coming out of the church that white supremacy formed, and realizing, you know, our original plan, if you will, or our original job, and that is to help our community, any community that have been affected by this country we call the United States. And so, yes, we're willing to step up. We know there's naysayers. We know there's people who are not going to believe that we're true or about it. We understand we got to come under some scrutiny. We're rolling up our sleeves, and we're ready for it.
There it is right there. Kim, I want to kind of get your take before we kind of dismiss, end this part of the conversation. Does this give you any hope? What does this give for you as one who is supportive of this effort, but understand the cultural dynamics of this as well?
Well, of course it gives me hope, but my question is, how can other churches get on board? Is there an active campaign to get more churches on board? And then my second question is this for only Black churches? Because we live in such a diverse, Los Angeles is so diverse. Yep. And so is it something that you are also extending this to Latino churches or Asian churches? So I just want to get an understanding of how more churches, how you are opening up for more churches to become involved. And will that also include other than Black churches? I guess I'll say it that way.
So I'll speak to the fact that this is open to all churches, any churches that believe in God or that is concerned about the community. It's open up to all churches, and I'll let Pastor Ryan, who's kind of spearheading bringing the churches together and the new efforts that we're going to do. I would like for him to speak to how they can get on board with this.
Awesome.
So absolutely. The website that we've been using, we encourage people to go to the website. On the website, you'll find that we'll have host churches that are going to sponsor training days. And those days, you'll be able to hear from the community, what the needs are in the community, how you as a church can be a part of that, what our dispatch hub looks like, meaning being a part of a group of churches that we can call on no matter what happens in the community and where it happens. And if you want training in a specific area, gun violence intervention, gang intervention, school-based intervention, family mediation. So those dates and locations will be posted on the website, and you and your church are free to come to those events. They'll be free. There'll be entertainment. There'll be engaging conversations with the community. There will be training. And then from there, you and your church can move forward in that space. Our only ask is whatever a church does well for their community, that they own that space and they do that in the community. And to respond just a little bit, I'll be done in 5 seconds. We sit down with law enforcement. We sit down with politicians. We sit down with principals and district superintendents. We sit down with them and we're changing policies, and we're watching laws change, and we're watching the fabric of our community change because we are in their faces. So this is not a promotion for our churches for Sunday. This is to get your prayer and support for what we're doing Monday through Saturday. But we are changing the fabric of our community.
Hey, Pastor Sims, I know we got to take a quick pause, but I want to go back to what Kimberly posed in terms of bringing other folks in, because one of our crew members, Monkey Confession, says, do those other churches bring us in? So what do you say when Black folks, and I'm sure you probably heard all of this as well, when Black folks say, well, why we always got to extend ourselves to other people when that's not in return? But are you finding that other, folks, churches, whether it's within a Latino community, hell, let's talk about the immigrant community of those coming from the Caribbean and Africa, are they amenable to creating those type of relationships with Black folks in this country, in Los Angeles?
Well, yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up, because one of my missions, and when I moved into the building that we're in now, because it was majority Latino in the neighborhood, was to hook up with Latino pastors. And I hooked up with a few of them, but not really in the partnership that we would like. And so our job, we are assigned, I as a pastor am assigned to the Black culture. That's my assignment that God specifically gave to me. However, if there are any other churches of any race that want to come and join this so they can serve their neighborhood, their culture, then by all means, God loves the world. So we got to do that, even though our specific ministry, or my specific ministry, is geared towards Black people. I have white people in my ministry. I have Latinos in my ministry. They all are there knowing that I stand there and I talk so much about the Black culture and how I'm assigned to that. And they're cool with that. They understand that if Jesus was here, he'll be assigned to the marginalized community, which happens to be Black people.
There it is right there. Pastor Ryan,
when we start the tour, I'm sorry, I was just
go ahead, brother. I'll give you a moment. Yes, sir.
Yeah, when we start the tour, and we go to churches that want to partner with us, we're presenting what God has given us. We're the ones on stage. So to answer that question, it has to be a true partnership. We're not looking to provide information and then get pushed out. This is very personal for us, very personal for our churches. And so that partnership has to include what we're bringing to the table for it to work. It can't be a thing of, well, we want to take over what you're talking about and we'll go do it on our own. But we're looking for churches that desire to partner. And that's the best way that we're going to be able to roll this out.
And very quickly, is there an opportunity for churches outside of LA and California that are looking to, can they connect with the Apology Tour and maybe set up a model in other cities across the country?
Absolutely. So up north, we had a large group of churches that have been a part of what we're doing up there. We started expanding to other counties, to where we've been in the Inland Empire. We've been to Pomona. And there are churches that have reached out to us from other states. So while we're still building it in Los Angeles, if a church is interested from another state or another county, we are 100% willing to work with you and to get you up on game, if you will, into the next level. So we're just working our area. We're doing what the model says. We want to work our area, but we certainly are going to open this up, and our goal is to take this across the country.
There it is right there. Black Church Apology, the Apology Tour. Folks, if you want to get more information about the work that Pastor Ryan David Sims of Revelation Church of God in Christ and Pastor Shep Crawford of the Experience Christian Ministries is doing, along with many other churches, make sure you go to the apologytour.com. It's called apologytour.com. It's the website, apologytour.com. And we thank these brothers for doing this work, doing this effort, thinking innovatively, taking church to the next level, taking church directly to the people. And may God be with our brothers and the efforts that they're making out there in the streets. But Pastor Crawford, Pastor Sims, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for being so good for the culture, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. We appreciate you, Kim. Thank you all.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about how a Maryland teen's efforts to commit a school shooting was thwarted, but how it still opens the conversation about guns in America. We're going to have that discussion. And later on, we'll talk about how some progressive Democrats have pushed the president with a new agenda for 2025, only if the Democrats can make it happen with this year's elections. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to be joined by not only Kimberly Morrow, but my sister Corinna Denise. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. As we talk about faith, let's switch gears to talk about guns in America, folks, as we are still seeing a proliferation of guns in this country. And more importantly, it's becoming at a dangerous level because of the access that it has among young people, the teenagers in this country. Here's why. In Montgomery County, Maryland, there was a 18-year-old by the name of Alex Ye, who of Rockville, Maryland. He was arrested on Wednesday of this week on charges of threats of a mass violence, according to the Montgomery County Police Department, that they said in a statement yesterday. Central to the case, according to the reports from the police department and from NBC News, central to this case, take a look at this. That's his picture right there. Let's put this picture up a little bit bigger for me, please, Keenan. Thank you. Central to this case, according to the reports, which was seized under a search warrant followed by an investigation by the FBI and police, in the document, that they found it was a 129-page document that this young man wrote as he laid out a supposed fictional story of a young boy who goes into a school and commits a mass murder. He writes that here about committing a school shooting and strategizes about how to carry out the act. He also contemplates targeting an elementary school and says that he wants to be famous. And this is according from the police based upon what he put, Alex Ye put in the documents. The investigators also found internet searches, drawings, and documents related to mass threats of violence, according to their statement. I want to bring in my sister's Kimberly Morrow, who is an educational advocate, and she serves as the founder of the Doris Del Morrow Online Academy, and my sister now, Corinna Denise, who is working in the college admissions, but she's also working in the space of education. As we continue the conversation about guns in America, and more importantly, the impact it has on the next generation. Corinna, welcome to the culture. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the conversation, as always. But this is, Kimberly, I want to talk to you first about this, because this is something we've talked about before, and we know that this is a big problem. The blessing was that the police were able to intercept this situation and save a lot of lives, right? But my concern is, there are two concerns. One is, we still got a real big problem with guns in America. But then the second concern is, he's doing it because he wants to be made famous. And I'm like, man, oh man, the way the culture is moving right now, where everybody wants to have some sense of notoriety, how can we disrupt that part of the thinking to make sure that this doesn't become another situation? Because yes, they got Alex Ye now, but there could be another Alex Ye next week.
Yes. And first of all, I'm so glad that they actually took this serious, because I remember, and it's been many years ago, so it's probably about 20 so years ago, when we confiscated a student's journal, and because they said it was like fictionalized, that they really couldn't do anything about it. So I am really glad that times have changed so much that even though it was fictionalized, that they still took it very serious and arrested him. But how do we change that culture? Do you know how many serial killers and people are sitting in prison? They do this because they want to get famous. So unfortunately, for some people, this is like a negative part of our culture, that you can get famous for committing mass shootings or committing being the biggest or the best serial killer or the most notorious serial killer. So I really am not sure how to change that dynamic. But one thing we definitely have to talk about is, how do we make sure that young people like this kid does not have access to guns? This is ridiculous, that we still, in this country, young people at the age of 18 can go out and buy, and I'm not talking about handguns, I'm talking about assault rifles.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. So it's something in our country we have to work on changing. And I hope when we talk about later about the Dems and their new policies, that gun control is one of them.
Let me ask you this. Nero 009 puts out there, he said, why does she say our culture? This is white people culture, not black. She needs to not say that. Kim, what would you...
When you say our culture, I want to clarify that I am speaking in large part the American culture. So while I agree with him, but we are still Americans living in this American culture. So I really can't say we're not Americans. We live in this country. This is the culture of America. We are Americans. We don't have a side country that we've moved to. So if that offends people when I say our culture, when I'm talking about American culture, then I don't know what to tell you, but we live in this country. So it is the American culture.
Well, let me just add this, because I think, and I know we got to take a quick pause. So, Corinne, I'm gonna get your take on the other side, but I want to throw this out there because Black people in this country, we are just as fascinated with guns as white people, right? Like if you listen to hip hop music and all the gun talk, AR-15s and this and that, and like we have a fascination, and here's why I think that this is still a hard thing for us to have the conversation about in terms of mass shootings, because we think about mass shootings, we thinking about it from going into a school type of setting, but do you know drive-by shootings? Do you know that when you go into a party and you just start lighting up the place, that's a mass shooting?
That is a mass shooting.
That's a mass shooting. If you look at the definition, that is a mass shooting. So
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And that has been a part of our culture for many years, going back to the 80s. So I remember growing up in LA and people would do drive-bys. So, you know, that's one thing where, no disrespect to our listeners, but we have to be honest with ourselves. Absolutely. That we have been influenced by the American culture. Mm-hmm. So while I may not be out shooting up a neighborhood, there are people that look like me with my skin color that are. Absolutely. That's just the reality.
That is the reality. Corinna, we're going to get your take on this from the other side. Folks, stay with us. We're talking about guns in America, how one Maryland teen was arrested, and essentially his plan to commit a mass shooting, a school shooting, was thwarted because of some great work done by the investigators. We're talking about the impact of this on the culture, and more importantly, guns in America and guns in the hands of the next generation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues.
Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere.
It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad, joined by my sisters, Corinna Denise, who is a college admissions advisor. She's joining us as she does every Friday. We're happy to have her once again joining us, as well as my sister, Kimberly Morrow, who is a parent advocate and educator and founder of the Doris L. Morrow Online Academy. As we talk about how one Maryland teen, Alex Yee, 18 years old, was stopped from committing mass murder. He was writing a book. That's what his initial statement was, is that he was just doing some writing, but it fantasized and fictionalized, in his words, this idea of going into a school and committing a mass shooting, and then going to an elementary school and committing a mass shooting. And as a result of that, the people that heard about this fictional story reported him. And that's when the authorities got involved, and that's when the investigation began. And they found that there were internet searches and all types of research that was done to look at how something like this could happen, the penalties for it, and the whole thing. So a lot of lives have been saved as a result of somebody listening and saying, Corinna, hey, this don't sound good. I mean, I know you say you're writing a story, but this sounds too real. This sounds too close to home. And that person had the right mindset to say, you know what, I think somebody needs to take a look at this. But the bigger picture is that we're still having a problem with guns in America. We brought up what one watcher said, that this is not a black problem, this is a white problem. And I'm not pushing back on it, Corinna. I'm really pushing back just because we have been struggling. Look, I'm from Baltimore. We've had over 300 murders every year for like 10 years straight, from a city that has less than 600,000 people. It's about 570,000 people. Per capita, Baltimore had some of the highest murder rate in the country per capita. So we can play the games of semantics, Corinna, about, oh, well, with black people, it's not mass shooting. It's more direction. Does it matter? Does it matter if you go into a party and you kill somebody because that was your intention, or if you go into a party and you just shoot up the whole thing? We had a shooting in Maryland just a few months ago where somebody went into a party in Baltimore and they shot 30 people. 30 people. And people died. So does it matter? I'm trying to push on this, Corinna, and I'm saying, do we really need to have some nuanced conversations about mass shootings in the black community?
Well, I think overall we do, right? So let's definitely unpack this a little bit further. But first, I do want to mention, it is, for lack of a better word right now, refreshing to see that some of the tragic lessons were actually learned, and that this school decided to take action and say, okay, even though it's quote unquote fiction, we don't know if that's the case. And considering all of the shootings that we've seen happen and the uproar with everyone wanting access to guns in this country, we're going to move forward and, take care of this young kid, right? And it's unfortunate. And I think we're going to see more of this because something you also mentioned, Faraji, about him wanting to be famous, right?
Right.
How are young kids viewing this? It's something that you see quite often on the news or perhaps on social media, it being reported that there was a mass shooting or an active shooter on a school campus. I was just listening to the local news a couple of hours ago, and I heard a local high school was under lockdown because of a threat. So things are always happening. You don't know how teens are perceiving this. And then for him to say he wanted to feel famous, did he see this as an avenue to fame? Because they're not necessarily being on TV, these shooters, for being famous per se, but, it's constantly in the news cycle after an unfortunate event occurs. So I don't know if that's his perception, but that's unfortunate. But I do want to also bring light to the comment that one of the crew members made about how this is white culture. I remember that speech of a generation that Tamika Mallory gave shortly after George Floyd was murdered. And something she mentioned was, the violence, we learned it from you, meaning like Black folks, we learned the violence from white folks. So in totality, in turn, learning those behaviors, we too have unfortunately demonstrated them, to your point, where we see, Black folks shooting up other Black folks, and so I think that was Kimberly's point. In totality, we have a problem. We have a problem with guns in this country. And I understand what, the crew member was trying to say, where, it's a thing of white culture, but we also have to unpack the historical aspect of that as to how we've also assimilated into that culture, unfortunately, with guns. So it is a we problem, because at the end of the day, regardless of whether it's white culture or Black culture, it's happening and all of us are being affected by it. But
that's the big point. That's the big point. I think that's something that we got to say, because we can go back and forth on semantics and even history, Kim, but at the end of the day, people are being shot, people are dying, You got more young people having access to guns in areas all across this country. Where are they getting these guns, right? And more importantly, it doesn't seem like, as much as we're hearing about these mass shootings, the culture hasn't changed. The violence is still prevalent in movies. Violence is still prevalent in music. Violence is still a part of the Black experience here in this country, right? And I think it's always kind of, for lack of a better word, I think it's funny, but it's not funny, that we expect Black children who grow up around violence each and every day, whether it's emotional violence, whether it's verbal violence, whether it's physical violence, and we expect our children to be peaceful.
Right.
Like, how does that happen? How if your child is coming out of a household that's violent, they may not have guns, but they have that other levels of violence to it, right? If they're coming into the street, if they're seeing violence against women, if they're seeing violence against children, if they're seeing all of this at 14, 15 years old, and we're telling them, hey, be peaceful, but that's the environment. That's the culture of the environment. Talk to me, Kim.
And I think that's what Corinna said it very well, what I was trying to say, but I was a little on fire at the moment.
It's all good.
We are in this country, and for better or worse, like it or not, we have adopted many of the values, unfortunately. So when you hear these things, while we may want to say, oh, we don't do that, that doesn't impact us. It does, whether we're the shooter or whether we're the victim. Because when that young man went to Tops grocery store in Buffalo and opened fire, who were the victims?
That's right.
So we cannot dismiss these stories and say, that's not our culture, whether we're perpetrating the crime or we're the victims. We are impacted and affected by it, and it is our culture. It is the culture of this country. Violence is the culture of this country, and we live in this country.
And Faraji, real quick, I know we got to go to break, but just real quick, you know what? Speaking about all things culture, I think one way, just my theory, how we could probably shift what we see, what's happening with guns in this country, if all the Black folks just decide, you know what, we're going to go to the range and we're going to train and we're going to get licensed and we're going to acquire a weapon, not necessarily to use it, but we've seen in our past history shows us, right? Like with the Black Panthers, when they decided to become armed, how quick the laws changed up. Maybe we should do that again. You know, like there's a blueprint there, you know, and maybe that would just be, you know, a window opening to maybe shifting some of the gun laws, considering it's just so available, right? Like an 18-year-old, you can't buy a beer, but you can go and buy weapons of war. It's absurd, it's asinine, it's ridiculous, but I think that might be just a solution to the problem.
Once again, Corinna, Black people got to be the superheroes of America.
Well, we created civilization, but that's another. Okay, then
we gotta be, you know, super. Like if we all of a sudden we all apply for gun permits. Whoa.
Like hold up.
We need some different laws here at this point.
Exactly.
No, that's the revolution. That is the revolution. Well, you know what? Again, as we close out on this part of the discussion, we are happy that the authorities interrupted us, but it still opens up a larger conversation that we still have a lot of work to do. And I know, Kim, you said that, you know, maybe hopefully this is on the agenda for progressive Dems, but hopefully. As of right now, I didn't see it. Didn't see it, but it doesn't mean that we can't make it an agenda item for both progressive Dems and Republicans. We have to push it. Look, we got to take a quick pause when we come forward. Let's talk about the agenda that progressive Democrats have posed to President Biden, saying, look, Mr. President, if you get elected, this is the direction we want you to go. I'm going to share with you some of the details of their agenda for 2025. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad, joined by my sisters, Corinna Denise and Kimberly Morrow. Corinna and Kimberly, let's talk about how the Democrats are now trying to move forward and getting themselves prepared for the big election in November. I think they see the writings on the walls with this one, Corinna. I'm going to start this with you. And they are hearing the talk, right? They are trying to figure out, look, how do we make sure that the Democratic Party is not on the back end of the demands of the people? Well, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, this is a group of lawmakers who are much more innovative in their thinking about which way democracy should go. They have shared a blueprint, as they are calling it, a blueprint of political advice for how it believes President Joe Biden can win over progressives and young voters who feel like they may not be as inspired to go to the polls this November. Take a look at this. Let's post quote one, please, Kina. Thank you, bro. Where let's look at the second paragraph. If the progressive base is not excited and enthusiastic, and if they don't feel like we are trying to earn their votes and that they are important, then I think the horrific idea of a second Donald Trump presidency could become reality. And this is said from Representative Pramila Jayapal, who serves as a Democrat out of Washington, the Progressive Caucus chair. She said, we cannot afford to let that happen, and we won't. Now, let me just share with everyone what the details of this plan looks like. And Kimberly and Corinna, I want to get your take. Let's go to quote 2, please. Thank you, bro. It says, it begins with provision to boost the federal minimum wage to $17 per hour by 2028, and pass the PRO Act to strengthen unions, as well as other provisions such as guaranteeing overtime pay. It includes policies to reduce the cost of living by capping child care costs at 7% of income for all families, expanding Social Security benefits by closing tax loopholes, adding dental, vision, and hearing benefits to Medicare, and enacting a series of policies to protect renters and making housing more affordable. All right, let me get your take on this one, Corinna. How does that sound right now? Is this the direction that you believe that the Democrats need to take at this point?
I think I'm going to shock some folks right now with what I'm about to say, because I know some people think that, as we all want to get facts, and they think you cape for the Democrats, or what do you call it, cape cap, whatever it is. But here's my thing. I do think it is a good plan, but this is what pisses me off, quite frankly, Faraji. They're too reactive. Be proactive, okay? Like, now they're going to have to move forward with this because we need every vote so that we can avoid, our demise come November. God forbid the Republicans get back into power in all 3 chambers, so they need to move forward. But I'm very hesitant, to be honest, especially with that minimum wage. I hope they can push it through, but this isn't new. A couple of years ago, Senator Bernie Sanders, I think he added a provision and it didn't go through. And a handful of Democrats, voted against it. Not only Kristen Sinema, whatever her name is, but also, to my recollection, Senator Chris Coons, who is a Democrat from Delaware, where our president is from, if I'm not mistaken. And a handful of others, which to me kind of highlighted, are you guys also some of the ones who are secretly hiding behind Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema and don't want to break the filibuster? So how are they going to do this? And then also with Representative Pramila Jayapal, I appreciate this, but you guys caved in, with Build Back Better. Now, it's great that we got infrastructure and everything, but they wanted to hold off and wait for the Senate to pass Build Back Better first, but they did not, and they caved. And a lot of people were upset about that. And those 6 just Democrats, like, I don't even like to refer to them as the squad, but pretty much that's who they are, voted against it in principle. And that was a tough decision. Now, I'm not saying that infrastructure shouldn't have passed, but, I think if they just, held firm to the ground a little bit more and put the pressure on the Senate and called them out that they didn't want to pass Build Back Better, which has some of the similarities in this new proposal, right, that would have benefited the people, it probably could have gotten over the hump. Also, I think we need to educate our constituents. There's something, and let me just refer to it real quick, where, Jayapal says Democrats will need 50 senators ready to pierce the 60-vote filibuster rule to get around likely GOP opposition. No! Why are you asking for the bare minimum? Tell your constituents, give us a supermajority, give us 60 Democratic senators so we don't even have to deal with the damn filibuster. They do not educate the public, and they take that for granted, that all of our voters are educated on manners. So it's kind of like, all right, you're presenting this now, but what is your plan to actually to get it to pass? And Democrats need to learn to be proactive rather than reacting to every single thing. I'm not saying they shouldn't move forward with this agenda, because we do need some cushion. Yeah. But we also have to be transparent with the people, how they actually get it, because we don't have the numbers. Hello, Dems, you lost your House majority, which should have never happened, because you actually did pass the bills that the people wanted. However, those bills died in the Senate. But to the naked eye, they think you guys didn't do anything because they don't understand how government works, that the bill has to go through both chambers and successfully pass to get to the president's desk. So I think we need to enlighten our young people in that sense. And I think they also need to present to their constituents, look, this is our plan, but we need you to back us up. We need you to put pressure. We need you to be calling, emailing, and pushing and saying you want this to pass. So that people feel hopeful when they do go out to vote, that, something could actually come to fruition. But, for the folks who are politically astute, I forget that minimum wage ain't passed. So now that the fact that you're putting up now, I need to understand, what's your plan to actually get it through the finish line this time around?
This is some great concern. Look, we're going to take another quick pause. Kim, I want to get your take on this, and there's more elements to their agenda that we're going to share. Stay with us, folks. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Host Faraji Muhammad, talking about how the progressive Democrats have now presented an agenda to the president and to Congress and to the rest of the country about what their ideas are if the Democrats are able to win in November, not just win the White House, but something that Corinna is very passionate and has always been emphasizing, winning both places of Congress, the House of Republicans as well as the Senate. And saying, look, here are some progressive ideas that we can start to work on in 2025 in an attempt to make sure that we do get progressive voters as well as young voters who may feel a little bit apathetic about coming to the polls. Kim, I want to kind of get your take on this as well, because we do see, and I think the Democrats are greatly concerned about who is going to come out into the polls in a rematch of Biden and Trump. And they're trying to figure it out, right? I think that's the thing. They're trying to figure out, like, where do, who is going to not show up? And more importantly, what are these folks' interests? And I'm like Shauna posted, Shauna Marshall, great culture crew member. She said, I feel like it's all just telling people what they want to hear. Do you feel like that's the same thing? Do you have the same sentiment around this?
Yes, because nothing in that excited me. It was the same old, just as Corinna said. So raising minimum wage, we've heard that before. The child care, helping people with children, okay, we've heard that before. Senior citizens, what about your middle class Americans whose children are adults, so benefiting from any type of child daycare credit or anything like that is not going to be helpful. They're still working adults. They're nowhere near retirement age. Right. They are struggling. What about your small business owners? We've been talking about all of the things that have been rolled back for Black people. Affirmative action has been rolled back. Voting rights has been rolled back. DEI offices are closing. Mm-hmm. What about those things?
Exactly.
Tell us something that's going to excite us. What about how are you going to help small minority businesses? What about those things? What about right now the cost of living in many cities is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I was not moved or excited by that. That just sounded like the same old to me.
The same stuff.
Same stuff. All right, let me just share this other elements of their plan. Let's go to quote 3, please, Keenan. Thank you, sir. They said that their 5 other planks are investments in education, including universal pre-K and kindergarten, aggressive clean energy standards to tackle climate change. They want to make our democracy work with federal voting rights mandates, Washington, D.C. statehood, and elimination of the Senate filibuster, taking on corporations and monopolies, and advancing justice through abortion rights, pro-LGBTQ measures, pro-immigrant policies, and setting national police standards.
You see, Faraji, they're presenting this as if this is something brand new, and it's not. Now, if this is the route that they want to go, here's what I would suggest, right? You need to hold those Republicans to the fire. Explain to the quote-unquote American people why Build Back Better didn't pass. Why that $500 a month child tax credit that they were getting for almost a year suddenly disappeared. That did lift half of children out of poverty. Where did that go? They do not message correctly. Let the people know that it did not pass and you don't have these things because Republicans blocked it. And that we need to increase our majority as Democrats to actually give you the things that you're asking of us. But you're presenting it as if this is just something brand new. So it does come across as, just, something that you want to hear. But those of us, again, who have been paying attention and have that momentum of memory, we remember these are things that you visited before. And they did not happen. So the message has to be very clear. How do you intend to actually get across the finish line this time? You can't just be saying it, because if $15 an hour minimum wage didn't pass, I remember when Biden and Harris were campaigning on that. I remember when they were campaigning on saying, you need $2,000 stimulus check, and we ended up getting $1,400. It's the little things like that. And I don't want that to diminish or disparage the good things that they have done, but we have to be realistic here. And if you want these things to pass, you need to have people remember, you should have had it. We fought for it. We didn't fight hard for it enough, but we want to do it again this time. And in order for us to give you this is what we need from you. Because in reality, they can't do it alone. You do need your constituency for this quote unquote democracy to work. And they need to drive in that message. And one more thing, Roland has been talking about this a lot lately. And, when are they going to talk to poor people? Because we always hear about the middle class.
Corinna.
Poor people could get
Come on, Corinna.
Talk.
There ain't enough time on the show. There ain't enough time on the show.
Just saying.
Look. There ain't enough time on the show. There ain't enough time on the show. Look, that's always been the issue, right? That has always been the issue. But here's the thing. You do have to try to figure out how are you going to get progressive voters and young people. to the polls, right? I mean, we gotta look at that now.
Can I say something, Faraji?
Yeah, please, Kim, take it away.
As you were reading that, let me tell you what my students, my young adult students, because high school students can barely vote unless they're 18. Young adult students would have been doing snoring, bored. It was boring. It was a lot of big words. And as my friend from college, Dr. Stacy Morris used to say, that sounds like a whole lot of gobbledygook. Mm-hmm. What were you saying? Just break it down for us. We plan to say it.
Make it rudimentary.
Yes. All of that was just talk to try to get us to the polls. But I'm sorry, I could actually see my students with their eyes closed, falling asleep as I'm talking, reading all of that, because that's just what it was. Boring. That is not exciting.
Can I just add to what you're talking about, boring there for a second, is the fact that, you see, they just got me all riled up. I'm losing my train of thought here. But I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, you know, you really have to talk numbers. It's a numbers game. And they need to make that message very clear if they want these measures to actually pass, because it's one thing, $15 an hour. Now, all of a sudden you want $17 an hour. And you know what? Oh, came back to me. You wouldn't have to work this hard and drop some new agenda if your work would just speak for itself. Okay. Even what we see with the abortion thing going on right now, and all transparency, it's real reactionary. And I commend them, like I commend VP Harris for going on and all this stuff, but there are some things in my views that I think we could have at least attempted to try, like expanding the court, because there's nothing in the Constitution that says that we cannot, okay? Because at the end of the day, yes, Donald Trump and the Republicans are to blame for the very extreme SCOTUS we have right now, but there are some things that we could have even attempted. And even if we didn't get over the finish line, people would have seen that you tried. Just like President Biden, when SCOTUS knocked down his student loan debt forgiveness, they went around it and found another way to forgive billions, right? And that sets apart to see, okay, you got knocked down, but you got back up again and you made the effort. That's what we need to see. Do this while you're in power. Don't just bring new ideas, quote unquote, right in the midst of an election year and then expect it to fly. And it pisses me off because it makes people like us who are on the ground have to work twice as hard because your messaging sucks and you don't know what to do. And because we need to save ourselves and save this damn country like we have done for hundreds of years, we have to work twice as hard, 100 times harder, because you're screwing it up. And we got to go back and clean up the mess so that we can have this quote unquote democracy. All right, I'm done.
Yes.
I mean, just tell us how you really feel, Corinna. Just tell us how you really feel. Kim, you got the final word. What's your take?
But Corinna is absolutely correct. They could have been doing something all along. When the Voting Rights Act wasn't passing, Biden could have used his bully pulpit. There are things, just like he got around making sure that billions of dollars in student loans were forgiven. There were things that he could have been doing all along. There are things the Democrats could have been doing all along in the Senate and in the House. So right now, all of this sounds good, but it's not going to excite the base. It's not exciting.
You know what comes to my mind when the great Lauryn Hill, when she said on that classic album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, remember that song, "Come on, baby, light my fire." Come on. Everything you drive is so tired. Come on, Democrats. Come on, light my fire, baby.
Okay. We want an inferno, baby.
Give me something. Give me something to talk about. It's going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting. And I you know what? Like, the Democrats have all the recipes. It's like being in the kitchen. You got all the recipes on the table. You just don't know how to make a great meal.
Exactly. It's like they have, like, you have your core voters. Well, I don't know about all three of us, but no, we're going to vote Democrat. But they're supposed to be trying to reach that group that is still undecided and uninspired. And that's not
uninformed.
That's not it.
Go back to the drawing board. That's the F. I give it an F.
Hey, y'all ever seen that meme of Charlemagne the God when they be like, nah, that ain't it, bro. That ain't it. That's not it. Well, you know what? We will see.
I'm not even going to say nice try or good effort, because I don't think that was a good effort or a good try.
I bet you they're going to come out with something else.
More work for us who are here on the ground. That's
there it is.
Yeah,
there
that's the zero do-over. Do that over.
Just do it again. I hear you.
Yeah.
All right, look, I got to take another final pause. When we come back, I got a special announcement. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
I need you to scream for your new beginning. 5, 4, 3, 2. I need you to shout for it. I need you to shout for it. It won't always be like this. Sooner or later, it's gonna work in your brother's favor, in your sister's favor. They shall not die. They shall not die. They shall not die. I want you to embrace somebody and tell them welcome to the greatest season of your life. Hug somebody, welcome.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Joined by my sisters, Corinna Denise, Kimberly Morrow. Man, oh man, this is hard right here. Look, some of you may have heard yesterday that Big Brother Roland Martin said on his show yesterday that the culture under my hosting it will be ending. So I wanted to announce that next week, next Friday, will be my last day in hosting and producing The Culture here on the Black Star Network. And without going into a long monologue at this moment, I just wanted to at least let you know as the Culture crew, because many of you have been riding with me from the very beginning for over these 2 years, and it has been a phenomenal journey in getting your support. And the beautiful thing about this has been that we have built this community, this beloved community, this space and platform. So I do wanted to not throw it on everyone at the last minute or some. I wanted to give people time to just know that all next week we're going to have some more great conversations, but we want to do our due justice to the platform, for the platform, and for you, our viewers, those who have supported us in money and time and energy and all of that great things, that we are going to be closing out this chapter of The Culture. And, I will be moving on to some other great opportunities that we have. But I just wanted to at least say, look, next week is going to be the final day for me to host and produce this show. That will be Friday, April the 26th. And I know this is going to be a tough one. This is going to be a tough one. This is going to be a tough one for me. So, just tune in all next week. Monday, we won't be able to be on the show. We're going to do a best of on Monday, but starting from Tuesday, God willing, all the way up till Friday, we will have the live shows, and we're going to have the conversations. But I'm been told there's some special guests may stop by and all of those good things. But I want to say thank you to Brother Roland and to Black Star Network for giving us the space to even kind of close things out the way that we wanted to close it out. So I thank Big Brother Roland for that. But next week will be our final week of me being at the helm of The Culture. So I don't even want to look at y'all faces right now, Corinna and Kim. I don't want to do this. So
Can I just say that this has been definitely a privilege to work with you. I've learned a lot from you in just the short time that I've been with you, and I thank you. And change is never easy, but it's necessary for our growth. It has to happen. We have to always be growing and always be changing. So
that's it. That's a great point. That's a great point. That's a great point. And you know what? You know what? Because some of y'all are already petty, Damon. Brother Damon has said, Faraji, you've been blockatized for this decision. So I'm now a part of the block church.
Well, you know what? I just want to resonate some of Kimberly's sentiments, Faraji. It has been a pleasure and a privilege to
Don't do this right now, Corona. Don't do this right now.
And I just want to thank you, you know, just to be transparent, you know, what a confidence booster it is that someone, you know, cares about what you have to say and have an opinion. You know, I really thought it was just going to be a one-time thing. And you asked me to join your crew. And then I saw my name in the credits one day and I was like, oh, shoot, I'm official. So I just want to say thank you for having me. Just know that you're stuck with me for life. That's non-negotiable, okay?
That is non-negotiable. Don't do this right now.
In your future endeavors. Thank you so much for, you know, allowing me to share my analysis. And I feel like I have grown so much as a person and learned from you as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Well, next week is going to be the final week, so we will still see a lot of you, a lot of our contributors, a lot of the faces, but just wanted to put this out here. And again, we thank Brother Roland Martin and Black Star Network for allowing us the opportunity and the space to close this thing out. And God willing, we will do our best to have a strong end for this very, very phenomenal show that we have built over these past couple of years. So thank you, Corinna. Thank you, Kim. I truly appreciate y'all. I got to close the show out now, but I thank each and every one of you for the online culture crew. And God willing, we'll be back on doing a live show on Tuesday, and we'll just take it from there. But I encourage each and every one of you, do not stop supporting Black Star Network, because that is the place, this is the space, this is where we do have those important conversations about what's going on in our community and our culture. So I thank each and every one of you for who have already supported. Big shout out to Hubert Bowling. Hubert, thank you for putting something in the pot today. Thank you for coming in at a level 1 for the Bring the Phone fan club. We truly, truly appreciate that, Hubert. But again, folks, go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And more importantly, as Hubert did, just put a little something in a bucket so we can continue this great movement. But I look forward to connecting with y'all, God willing, on Tuesday. And more importantly, closing this thing out. We're going to close this out strong. It's going to be hard. It's going to be emotional. But we're going to do it the way that I truly believe that we need to do it. And more importantly, I just wanted to honor you, because y'all don't have to be here. Y'all don't have to tune in. Y'all don't have to be a part of the conversation, but you choose to do so. So I want to just do my part to honor you for supporting this show and the work that we're doing. So again, thank you so much for all of this. But, you know, we got another week. We still got another week. But stay tuned at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll have another great set of conversations for you on Tuesday. And most importantly, have a fantastic weekend. And I look forward to seeing you then. Talk to you soon. Peace.